The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everybody to this webinar by the iChemy Safety Center on occupational health and safety and process safety. I'm going to share my screen in a moment. In the meantime, please let me know if you can hear me well, and we can wait for a couple of seconds so that others may show up. My name is Dr. Susanna Gyenes, and I'm the deputy to the director of the iChemy Safety Center. And I'm very, very happy to be here. And it's been for a while that I run a webinar. So this is again a very, very great time to be with all of you. And before we start and jumping into the, oh, thank you, David. Audio is fine, perfect. Before jumping into the topic, which is, I think is really, really interesting, but I hope that I can convey the message and then you will enjoy it as well as I do. I would like to let you know that the recording will be available both on our website, on the iChemy Safety Center website, and also it will be available on the YouTube channel of the iChemy Safety Center. More on that will be talked about later. One other thing that I always tell everyone whoever come to my webinar is that please share your comments, right? Throughout the webinar, since I can't know everything, obviously, and I admit it, I'm fine with that. But maybe you have other ideas and other thoughts. You may even disagree with something that I say. Feel free to comment in the question box, okay? In the end, I will pick up on those questions, try my best to answer to those questions. And also, I would like to have this webinar as interactive as it is possible. Now, the topic is quite an extensive, quite wide area of reach. So I may be able to touch upon some of the aspects and to give you the picture about what I mean by what's the difference, what are the similarities, and what we can take as a message home about occupational health and safety and process safety, and try to catch up on those topics. And you may have other understanding or more in-depth knowledge about one or other aspects. So please, and chat and comment on them. Even after the presentation, you can send your comments and it will be also shared on LinkedIn for those who are involved in those conversations. So I would like to put this whole idea about the webinar in context. This is the iChemy Safety Center framework. It is not a safety management system. It doesn't even seek to replace one, but it is, in our belief, it is such a system that represents all areas or elements that are crucial in process safety. And the most important aspect is leadership. Now, leadership must be underpinned by all of these elements, so that you have to have leadership in your safety culture, in your operation. And when there is a system or writing up new procedures, then there must be leadership on those aspects as well as engineering and design, assurance when you audit your plant, when you develop further process leading lagging metrics, when you build up knowledge and competence and the road map, how to reach that level of competence. Everybody has to have a leadership. Ownership and leadership is really, really crucial. And of course, in human factors as well. So these are the 6 elements of the iChemy Safety Center framework that was put together by our company members, as it was their understanding that these are the most important areas for them in process safety in practice. And this is what we apply all around our guidance documents and everything that we communicate. More on the guidance documents that are free to download for everyone, I will talk about later. Now, let's jump into this context. First of all, I give you some general idea about what process safety is as a refreshment. Basically, the idea with this webinar was to raise awareness of university students to let them a little bit know about, okay, when I ask you, what do you think process safety is? Or what do you think occupational health and safety is? What is that? What does it mean to you? Then they could answer to this question before they go and progress with their career in any industrial site. So there should be a basic understanding what we are talking about here. And I give you one example, and you can have much more examples. It's okay. So process safety is all about like managing the integrity of the operating system with the application of inherently safer design principles, engineering, and disciplined operating practices, operating procedures. It's a systematic framework to manage the integrity of the plant, of the operation. It deals with the prevention and mitigation of industrial incidents, those that have the potential for a loss of control. A loss of control can mean loss of hazardous material or loss of control or of operating parameters, pressure, temperature, and so on, and loss of energy. And those loss of controls may lead to high consequences with fire, explosion, toxic release, and could ultimately result in multiple fatalities, serious injuries, extensive property damage, environmental impact, and lost production with associated financial and reputational impacts. This is really complex. This is really heavy. So when we are talking about process safety, it is a very a thorough, systematic framework that we have to think about. I will highlight all over this webinar that system, so that we have to think about at the system-based level. Not only pick up one or two elements, but we have to think about the operation as a whole system. Focuses on three key aspects: the plant, which is the hardware part, the process, the systems, procedures in place, all sort of procedures in place, and of course we have the human aspect, which is people. It is a blend of engineering, management, leadership skills, and if you have time to look at our competency guidance document, then you will see that in that guidance document, which is available to download from our website for free, that you will see that every level within the organization, you have to have a certain level of competency in process safety. It is regardless whether you work in HR or recruitment, finances, engineering, supervisory role, or operator, that you have to have some level of competency that is related to process safety. That is crucial. And that's why it's a system, because you can't just say that, oh, well, I work for the HR, so all I do is dealing with people, hiring people, and so on. No, you have to understand, and then you have to communicate as well with engineers, but that is another story. I also published a paper on learning from accidents related to recruitment. And so those aspects where you fail to communicate, then you can see those aspects of elements. What I try to say here is the complex, the system, and that is complex, and what are the elements that are important. And then we have occupational health and safety. Now, it is a multidisciplinary field, and it's concerned with the safety, health, and welfare of people at work. And it tries to prevent illness, injury at work by recognizing and identifying the hazard. So this is at a people level, this is at worker level. And obviously, the consequences are different from the process safety incident. And it takes into consideration different types of risks that workers are exposed to. It could be physical, it could be psychological, biological, chemical, ergonomical, you name it, so that you have several different types of risks that workers are surrounded by. Now, let me stop here for a second, because there is an aspect, and please feel free to add your comments in the question box, or if you have any questions so far, just to interrupt the flow. I would like to stop here for a second, because I will talk about incidents in this webinar. So that what happened was that despite the good work of chemical engineers in mitigating dangerous events, they still occur. And why I mention it here at Occupational Health and Safety, it's because one of the reason given for these incidents, it was the lack of understanding of what process safety is and how it is different from occupational safety. So why you cannot rely on occupational health and safety measures when you want to analyze and want to see your performance in process safety. And you can see many of these aspects, from the Macondo or Texas City refinery explosion, Longford, and many other accidents where there was too great a focus on reducing the high number of occupational safety incidents, trips, slips and falls, and so on, that those are causing injury to workers, rather than focusing on the more infrequent but much more serious process safety incidents. So when you overlook those hazards, then you can end up in serious incidents. But those are just one part of the story, obviously. But I just wanted to highlight that it's not enough to focus on one or the other. I give you more insight of this in a couple of minutes. But this is my favorite. When I studied risk management, then this was from the UK HSE, this picture that was presented. And this, I think this explains a lot. Just for curiosity, what types of hazards can you identify on this picture, on this one particular picture that is occupational health and safety hazard? Can you just, if you want, you feel free to and type in the question box. I'm really happy to see your comments, and obviously you can use the slide as a cheat sheet as well, because I named a couple of those that you could identify. But it's just a really nice exercise, just to, either it's a morning for you, or it's the afternoon or evening, but it's a good brain exercise, I think, that just to shake things up. How many hazards can you identify? Because this is a cute picture. I hope that you can see it really well in high resolution. But let's see what you have here. All right. Yes, slips, trips, and falls. What a surprise, right? And stairs, mess on the floor. Yes. Housekeeping. That is really important. Okay, what else? Just chemical spill. Yes, very good. Yeah. You can comment more. It's fine. Objects at height. Unorganized palette. Very good. I'm really happy. Thank you so much for contributing. Really. I think it's you may enjoy this, because there is the lady in the background who carries a box, and there is something in front of her. Door behind the stairs. Yes, Exactly, exactly. That is really hazardous materials, asbestos maybe on floor. Okay. I see something, either it's a spill or it's a hole. I couldn't figure it out from the original picture as well, what's on the floor. But maybe some spill, maybe it's just a hole. But yes, the stair crossing the door is really, really not a good idea. All right. So thank you so much for your comments. I really enjoy working with you. Now, I highlighted a couple of these hazards on the screen. You can see here the potential, just a couple of examples about occupational health and safety hazards like electric shock, hazards, chemical hazards, physical or fire hazards, corrosive substances, that all that can impact on the person that is working or is affected by those. And yes, falling off the ladder or forklift accidents. How many times have you seen that in warehouses? Forklift accidents. When the forklift driver overworks and they can't pay attention anymore, whether what's behind them because they are too tired or they have to be in a hurry. All these just running and be in a hurry because of deadlines, because of tasks must be done, leaving something behind on the floor and then tripping over them, or any mechanical trauma, cutting fingers. Oh my God, those are horrible pictures that I have come across when we talk about occupational health and safety hazards and injuries. So these are the hazards that I would like to show you about occupational health and safety, just to put it in context. And maybe it is basic for some of you, maybe it is just a refreshment, but I think it's really important sometimes just to remind ourselves what is occupational health and safety is about and what it is not about. And now coming back to running the slides, apologies for the disturbing pictures. I should have said or warned you beforehand. To be honest, when I put together the slides, I could have prepared, I think, like 10 to 20 of similar slides with repeated accidents from the past, which were process safety incidents. The list is horribly long. If you think about, from my past experience administering the European Major Accident Reporting System, EMARS, I highly recommend you, if you haven't come across with that database, just look at it because it's publicly available. I give you the details for those of you who are interested, just email me. So then, there are certain criteria within the Seveso directive, and therefore it is also in the COMA regulations, that you have to report your incidents that occur in your particular country if that particular event meet the requirements of the Annex 6 of the Seveso directive, which is that you have to have a substance released above some particular amount, or how many fatalities, injuries, environmental impact, and so on. Now, what is interesting to see, people like trends. They always ask us at the European Commission that, okay, but what is the average trend in terms of process safety incidents? The trend is, I have to say, that basically every year we have, only within the European Union, we have 20 to 30 major accidents occurring. 20 to 30. Now, that implies that we have those incidents or accidents, sorry, because they are qualified as accidents, so that we have them 20 to 30 in a year in general. And only just a couple of those that you can see here, and many of those that were not under the Seveso directive. So you can imagine the numbers. All right. I'm pretty sure that all of you have heard of Bhopal and Seveso. And most probably you also heard of Basel, the Sandoz chemical spill, and many other accidents, Tianjin that will have the 5th year anniversary tomorrow. And of course, the ammonium nitrate fertilizer explosion in Toulouse in 2001, right after the World Trade Center occurred, and then Beirut, unfortunately. And it's not the end, because after immediately that the explosion in Beirut occurred, then there was another chemical factory accident in China that killed people, and there was a hydrochloric acid spill just yesterday, a smaller one, but still a spill in the UK. So in a brewery. So that what I mean is that many of the accidents are occurring. Yes, there is a question around 20 to 30 in Europe or around the world. In Europe, because the EMARS database is a system where all the European Union countries have to report their accidents, which are above those criteria that I already mentioned within the Seveso directive. So those are the countries where the Seveso directive is implemented. However, the EMARS database is also open to OECD countries and UNECE countries, that if they want, on a voluntary basis, they can report their accidents as well. It's not obligatory, but there are some of the very famous high visibility accidents that occurred in the United States, and a couple of those from Australia, as well as one or two from Canada. Lac Megantic, for instance, is in the database, just to name it. So yes, so what I was trying to explain here, that these are high consequence accidents with really serious impacts. And what are those impacts? What are those consequences? So the consequences of those process safety incidents are, compared to the occupational health and safety incidents, where you can have injuries, personal injuries, that you fall off the ladder, you could die. Yes, unfortunately, that happens. You can cut your finger, you can burn yourself, you can spill a chemical, toxic material on yourself, on your dress, you can burn it, and so on. So you can have those impacts. Now, in terms of process safety incidents, as you could see, all the craters, for instance, or the high destruction after the accident, or the many people that were injured or dead after the toxic release, you can say that these are high consequences, such as the human loss injuries off-site and on-site. The environmental impact is massive. Think about Baia Mare, think about Basel, Macondo, just to name a few. Business, reputation, and financial loss. Many of the businesses, many of them, they can't survive an accident. They cannot. And it's not uncommon. It happens that they can't just survive any of those. So this is why process safety incidents are really expensive in all these terms. This is my favorite chart. When I did the iChemie Fundamentals of Process Safety course, it's a 1-week course. I enjoyed it really much because it goes through all of these process safety incidents, many of them that you can learn from in many aspects, covering many of those topics. Then we come across this chart, this diagram that actually puts together personal safety and process safety. I know sometimes I mention personal safety, occupational health and safety. What I mean by that is the safety of workers, the health and safety of workers. And process safety is about those industrial sites, industrial activities, either production or just storage facilities, but those are the process safety related aspects. And you can see here the severity of those events. And you can see here the frequency of occurrence. So from the low to high frequency of occurrence. As I mentioned earlier, personal safety related events or occupational health and safety related events are high frequency, but low severity. But they move forward to process safety. And at one point, they can meet. So you can't just differentiate them that or this happens or that, either or. No, they can overlap each other. I will give you a very, very prominent example, and I'm pretty sure that you have come across and you know many more examples of that, but I will show you a very, very good one in terms of to demonstrate where these two areas can match and overlap each other. And then, of course, there is the business impact, which could be lower for personal safety because obviously it doesn't require as much as financial burden or investment for personal safety than it requires for the whole system, for the process safety, like protection against corrosion for pipeworks, for instance. How much does it cost? In terms of personal safety, how much does it cost to buy a Tyvek suit or a fire extinguisher or a pair of gloves or helmet for like 20 people maybe. So this is a really good chart. I would highly recommend you to keep it in mind all the time because I just love it, because this represents where we are when we talk about personal safety versus or as well as process safety. That's why I was hesitating when I gave the title to this webinar, OHS versus process safety. No, it's all, I want to talk about both. Actually, what are the differences? We like differences. We like separating things and structuring things so that we better understand. 3 key factors, and you will hear much more about this in the webinar by Trish Kerwin, director of the iChemist Safety Center, and it will be in the autumn. A really, really good webinar. I highly recommend you to join in, and she will build more on this aspect about leveraging from occupational health and safety and process safety. So, but I would like to touch upon these 3 key factors that are the main differences between occupational health and safety and process safety. What I have to highlight first, that both are equally important, but each require different skills to manage. Okay, so the similarities, though, are that both are hazard and risk-based, and both require management systems. So we have to highlight also the similarities we have to mention. So when we talk about, however, the differences, the mechanism of what causes one or many of these accidents, either occupational or process safety, they are different from each other. While both process safety and occupational health and safety are concerned with the potential loss of control of hazardous energy, because it can be the consequence of both of them, process safety is usually about managing the higher levels of energy loss. The scale of potential consequences, I already compare them to each other, so you get the picture of that. And then the focus on engineering and design. So process safety focuses on the safety of the systems. Occupational health and safety is about the safety of those who actually interact with the system. Once again, so process safety focuses on the safety of the systems. Occupational health and safety focuses on the safety of those who interact with the system. So that is a major difference in between the two. And I guarantee you that Trish will go into the very, very details of these differences in her webinar. So I don't want to talk about that more, but I would like to show you more aspects. Some of the underlying like details. And what about the frequency of occurrence? Yes, we talked about it, that process safety incidents occur with a lower frequency, but potentially higher consequence, higher impact on the environment, people, business, reputation, you name it. Process safety prevents hazardous releases. It includes the prevention of unintentional releases of chemicals, energy, other hazardous materials, and occupational health and safety generally refers to classic health and safety associated with the prevention of trips, slips, and falls, if we want to keep it simple, if we're focusing on those aspects only. Process safety tries to protect everyone. What does it mean? It means that when you have an industrial site, just picture one. It's a complex one. Or you just think about a warehouse or an LPG storage facility or a chemical, a pharmaceutical factory, oil refinery, whatever you want to think about. So that it tries to protect the workers that work within the facility, or together with all the contract workers, or together with all the drivers, and they try to protect also the surrounding area, people around the facility. Tell me, how many times you've seen an industrial site right in the middle of the city, or in a village, or as we could see in many times at port, at high density residential area. How many times? I saw one chemical plant that was surrounded by the village from the distance that only the road that actually separated the industrial site fence, where there was inside many tanks storing and producing and logistically transferring hazardous materials. And then the other side of the road, there was a municipality. And then we had an open hearing whether the chemical site can develop further and build a new installation within the facility. And that was the open hearing. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but what was the concept here? The concept here, and this is maybe it's a negative example, but I have to share it with you because this thing happens. I'm pretty sure that you have seen this before. So what happened, I used to work as a Seveso site inspector for many years, and we came to the open hearing, which basically means that everybody from the village can come, look at the safety report of that particular industrial site and see the information about the installation that is in the plan ahead to be built, and say, okay, we are fine with this or we are not fine with this. So we went there and we were waiting for people to show up. No, nobody came. Nobody. So then we asked the mayor, what happens here? Why people are not coming? Are they not interested? What's in their vicinity? What's in their neighborhood? I mean, physically speaking, literally speaking, what is on the other side of the road? And unfortunately, the answer I'm not so happy to share, but I have to, was that, oh, well, the industrial facility pays a lot for the development of the village. And so people are happy with that. Many, and basically the entire village works in the facility. So they have no objection without looking at the hazards, without looking at the risk. And it happened in another open hearing as well, unfortunately, but this is life. So when it happens, at least we should take responsibility in terms of when I am the operating site, then I try to take all the necessary measures to protect people within the site, because those are the workers that work for me to produce further production, so further products, and also to protect their family as well. So it's important. This is a really, really sensitive topic, I know, but we just have to talk about it. Land use planning disciplines, principles, really important to protect people outside, offsite, onsite. Coming back to this more in details about the differences, occupational health and safety hazard is much easier to communicate to people because what we are talking about, for instance, protection suit. We talk about slips, trips, and fall hazards, but process safety is much more complex, highly how to put it this way. It is something that requires more technical knowledge. So communicating process safety is much more complex and difficult. I don't know if you know this phenomenon, but when you try to explain people what do you do, and you say, "Oh, I am a process safety engineer," and people just look at you. Is it about these chemicals, or what is it about? And you have to be able to communicate clearly what process safety is about, what you try to prevent, what you try to mitigate, what procedures mean, what is emergency planning, what does it mean to people, so that risk communication is part of this story. If you think about that, you have to inform the people around the facility what they are dealing with, what they are surrounded by. So people have basically a better understanding when you talk about occupational health and safety, yet we have to be able to communicate process safety as clearly as it is possible. I know I spent a lot of time with this one slide, but and of course there are so many other aspects. Costs obviously are higher in process safety. If a site suffers from an accident, it actually kills the reputation completely of that particular site, that cannot be revived anymore. The production is lost, the reputation is lost. So and many other financial background information, so that it's a loss that is really high in terms when an accident occurs. I know that you all know what a late Trevor Klatt said about, yes, process safety is expensive, but try an accident. I may not quote it precisely, but you get the message, I think. Now, how many of you have heard of this particular case I am about to present now? Remember, I mentioned that the two areas where you have personal safety and process safety, and when there is a cross, when they overlap each other. And some of you already asked in the question box, what is this overlapping area? Now, this is it. This is one of the examples that I would like to give you. What happened at Mumbai High North platform. You may have heard of the story, but I truly believe in sharing is caring, so that the more we tell the story, the more we are becoming familiar with those, like with fairy tales. The more you hear it, the more you can tell it. So it is about this particular platform. What happened here is the following. There was a vessel that collided with the offshore platform called Mumbai High North. It was situated around 160 kilometers away west from Mumbai coast, caused a major fire, destroyed the platform, and not only resulted in 2 severe fingertips, but unfortunately killed 22 people as well. And over 300 had to be rescued from the platform. And on the top of that, the fire continued to burn for 2 hours and completely destructing the whole platform. it's a massive platform, and those of you who work in oil platform or the oil business, then you know how much loss we are talking about here. I don't quantify it, but you know this. So on 27th of July in 2005, there was a so-called multi-purpose support vessel that was completing a diving campaign when a cook, a chef, on board this vessel cut off two of his fingertips. So upon recovery of the diving bells, the vessel requested the injured employee to be transferred to the platform. The weather conditions, we are talking about July in the coast of Mumbai. So the weather conditions were really, really unfavorable the day of the event. Monsoon rains, high winds, so that it prohibited the use of the helicopter deck or the helicopter. The leeward crane of this platform was out of commission at the time, so the vessel began to approach the platform on its windward side. And during the approach, the master had noted that the starboard thruster's pitch was slow-moving. After the injured crew member was successfully transferred to the platform, the vessel experienced a heave from ongoing ocean swells and struck several marine risers. And that resulted in gas leak, ignited rapidly and spread to adjacent risers with no fire protection. Fluid flow in the risers was not contained by emergency shutdown valves due to their overall length. Rescue operations were unsuccessful in recovering 22 lives that day. So, in simple terms, a cook cut off his two fingertips, which eventually, with all these undergoing factors and circumstances, resulted in 22 deaths. Now, this is where I can see really clearly where process safety event overlaps with personal safety event. But that was just to show you an example, to clarify what we mean by that. And there are so many other accidents that can demonstrate such a phenomenon. But this was one of those that I wanted to show you. You can find the investigation report if you Google on Mumbai High North platform on the internet. So that is accessible from the internet with all the details, all the causes, and of course there are underlying issues there. Since in the beginning I mentioned to you that always measuring performance, both in occupational health and safety and process safety. Now, I highlighted here what's the difference. So that occupational health and safety measures injuries that have occurred to people, monitors health of barriers preventing those incidents, and process safety measures process safety incidents that occurred. So it's not that occurred to one or two workers or how many people, but it measures process safety incidents, complex accidents, and monitors health of barriers preventing process safety incidents. So barriers that are able to prevent occupational health and safety incidents are not often the same as the barriers that prevent process safety incidents. They could be, there are, but not all of them. And that is where this is the sense of maybe unclarity why we cannot just simply cut the line between occupational health and safety and process safety, because there is no clear cut. So that is where you measure and what you measure. Always try to understand what do you want to measure and why. Why do you want it? because you want to see the nice charts, because you want to present it to the CEO, or because you really want to understand what is going on in the background. So that is, I encourage you to try to understand and process in yourself what it is that is your overall goal with measuring the performance of either the system or measuring the occupational health and safety aspects. But don't be misled. Okay, traditional occupational health and safety metrics, such as lost time injuries, are not a proxy for process safety. I think that we learned the lessons from that very, very clearly from the two really, really high visibility events such as Deepwater Horizon or Macondo, as I referred to it in the past couple of minutes, and maybe Longford and maybe Texas City explosion, and so on. So those are the major incidents that focused on high performance regarding lost time injury and safety first. You can see it everywhere, posted on ships, platforms, sites, everywhere. But unfortunately, those measures did not reflect to process safety in that particular site or operation. So while incident history is really, really important to show the improvement, it is never the predictor of the future. And only lead process safety metrics can give an indication of likely incidents to come, but they are not predictive. So try to avoid cases where to focus on incident history only, and try to always monitor your metrics, whether they reflect on what is going on and what you want to achieve. So for instance, if you see that you have so many incidents, then you just try to focus on the prevention side, so that you try to understand better why those accidents still occurring or near misses occurring, because we have to mention also near misses in the story. What is happening there, why it cannot be prevented. So then you come back to the leading side and try to establish more, or try to monitor and review those lead process safety metrics, which can impact the lagging indicators. So that, or if you know the watermelon effect, I mentioned it several times in previous webinars, but effectively it is about that you have all the measures green. If we are talking about the traffic light system here, everything looks green, really perfect. Your numbers are really fantastic, but then inside it's red. So that you always have to challenge the green results, whether it's really green or there is something ongoing that is really not reflecting on reality. Always question those metrics. So this is what the indicators or metrics are about. And of course, we have a guidance document on metrics, freely available for everyone. One is that the basic guidance document on lead process safety metrics that was based on the practice of operating partners or to the iChemist Safety Center. So they put together those lead process safety metrics that they thought and they think that are the most crucial ones to identify and develop further. So if you want to check your system, what it is about your process safety metrics, then you can do like a gap analysis comparing your system to this guidance document. It is not obligatory, obviously. It's just a guidance. And but I have to say that this is a short, concise, practical guidance document that gives you direct implication about this and that metric, how you can implement, what are the connections to other metrics, and so on and so forth, with a couple of examples as well. And then further to that, if you want to apply that in your operation, then you can even think about further down the line. And therefore, in 2019, we published a supplementary guidance document to that first guidance document, because there were a couple of metrics that the operating companies thought that require more in-depth knowledge. And so that working group put together this supplementary guide on pressure relief devices, especially the design and operational performance requirements. Also free to download. And we are now working on permit to work system, and we are working on alarm rationalization related metrics. Quite a hard work, but they will be published soon. And I mentioned earlier the design, and I wanted to mention something that I always highlight. Again, maybe this is my thing, but no operating site is static. Everything is changing. The climate changes, people change, procedures change, technical knowledge change, systems change, little tiny pieces of material change. So everything that changes since the original design of the plant must be monitored, because you don't want to end up in the situation where creeping changes occur. Those subtle little not even seen changes or not even recognized or recorded changes can develop into something big, and then an accident is there waiting to happen. So the iChemist Safety Center also published a guidance document on early concept design phase. A really good read. I highly recommend it to you. Also, you can find it on our website if you want to download, if you want to extend your knowledge about that aspect as well. Right. I think I talked too much. Yes. So here you can find the details. As I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, but in case you missed that, I would like to repeat that this webinar is recorded and it will be available for everyone, not only participants, but for everyone on our YouTube channel, on LinkedIn, on our website. And if you need further information and if you would like to learn more about what the iChemist Safety Center does, please feel free to visit our website. Here you can see our email address. We are really happy to take your questions. And also, I'm really happy to take your questions now with a small note that I may not be able to answer to all of the questions because it's a very wide area. But I hope that you could learn something around the aspect of where you position yourself when we talk about occupational health and safety and process safety. And as I mentioned earlier, the director of the iChemist Safety Center, Trish Karin, will give a very thorough webinar on this particular topic more in details in the autumn. Check the iChemist Safety Center website and the iChemie website, please, for more information around many different topics. And please try to find all the guidance documents that we all have, or the iChemie training courses, whatever is your interest that you would like to continue with, you get the information. So I heard a couple of comments I have. Yes, we will make the webinar material available. No, it doesn't provide attendance certificate to attendees, although that you are notified that you have been to this webinar, you attended this webinar. Thank you all for your comments and for your interest. So thank you so much being here and listening to me. Yes, I am able to share the details of the EMARS database, and I'm pretty sure that our colleagues will send you the details if you are interested in that. Okay. How to avoid the community settle around the hazardous facilities? That is a really good question. I think more regulations and land use planning principles in place would help. and restrictions and more measures taking into place in terms of reducing the risks, mitigating the risk. But it's a joint effort. Mind you, you cannot only rely on the operation in the operating side only. People, residential area, society must be aware what they can or cannot do as well. So that it's not only the responsibility of the site, it's everyone's responsibility. That's what I wanted to say. I can't see more questions, so thank you so much again. Thank you for your participation, and thank you for your contribution as well. So bye bye.